price points. But considering the design of the package is an element that will attract these customers in the 26 seconds that they're looking at your product. And so we came up with this idea of the Indygo collective design to try and tackle this problem where a food entrepreneur will be given a complete service from when they want to package their products properly, food safety, and also the design element, all the way to the end product. Today, we're going to take the next 2 hours, hopefully, to give you the tools that you need to engage with this service. So we have designers who will give you the technical aspects of designing your product. We'll talk about the financing of it. How do you make money out of it if you're a food entrepreneur or you're a designer? How do you make profits out of this engagement? And also in a lineup, we have somebody to talk about the strategy for food entrepreneurs. How does my branding fit into this? How does my packaging fit into my brand? So there's a whole lineup of experts here that we are fortunate to have today to discuss food packaging. So thank you very much for today. And we look forward to sharing with you our knowledge and expertise in the food packaging arena. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor, for that really great presentation. Now we've heard a bit about EPAC Ghana. We're now going to hear about EPAC US, what they've done, the lessons they've learned, what we can take from where they are now. And I know that all the designers out there are looking for opportunities. So the opportunities that you can also take full advantage of when it comes to the food processing space. I have with me the co-founder of EPAC. He's a beast in the marketing space as well. Carl Joe Hakim. Good morning, Carl, and welcome to our food packaging design conference. I'm saying morning because I'm suspecting it's still morning where you are.
Yes, it is. Well, thanks very much. It's a pleasure to join you, and my congratulations to pulling off this first conference of its type. I think it is needed in Ghana from everything that I've learned about the market. What I'd like to do is share just a couple of slides with you to give you an idea of EPAC's history, how we're positioned in the market, and a little bit behind our rapid growth really throughout the world. So if I can get this technology to work for me, I am going to share my screen. Let's see. So tell me, okay, how does that look? Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Great.
It's perfect.
Great. So, so my name is Carl Joachim. I spent my career working for large companies like Xerox, helping bring breakthrough digital printing to market. And in 2013, I started to focus on the packaging industry. And we saw really a totally unserved market for flexible packaging. We had tremendous growth throughout the world, really, of small and medium-sized brands trying to compete with these global monsters. And they really didn't have any good packaging alternatives. They either got a blank bag, put a label on it. They ordered way more than they needed in order to get the minimum price down, and then ended up throwing away quite a bit of it. Or they went overseas, and there were issues with that. And so we saw this untapped, really unserved market. And so when we came to market with our digital printing platform, we were able to offer the ability for them to order to demand, to offer very short run lengths, and to offer lightning quick turnaround time in the 5 to 15 business day range. So a little bit about us. We are the first global 100% digital full service printer converter providing economical short and medium run length jobs. So by that, I mean, we don't just print, but we laminate, we slit, we make the final pouch. All of that is done in-house in all of our EPAC locations. The key to what we provide, I think, is the rapid time to market service we're able to provide, as well as the digital printing technology based on the HP Indygo 20,000, which produces true high definition quality graphics and an extended color gamut as well. A little bit about our history. As I mentioned, I started to work with a couple of partners back in 2013 on exploring this idea of this unserved market. There was some market research, quite a bit of market research that went into it. In 2016, we opened our first greenfield plant in Madison, Wisconsin, here in the US. We started with 0 customers and hoped the phone would ring. We started to pick up speed, moved into 2017, opened the plant in Boulder, Colorado. And as you can see, throughout 2019 and 20, and now in 2021, we've expanded here in the US and Canada. And as you can see, internationally is where we're really focused right now. We're in Indonesia, we're in Ghana, we're in Poland, France. We'll open before the end of the year in South Korea. In Europe, we have one plant outside of London, going to be adding a second. We're moving into Innsbruck. We're in Lyon, and it just keeps marching on. By the end of this year, moving into the beginning of next year, we'll have about 27 plants up and running around the globe. As Victor mentioned, our why, and this is how we started really, is we saw this unserved market, and we saw what they were doing. I mean, they were community-based businesses. Generally family owned. They all had a story. It might have been somebody's grandmother's recipe, or somebody, was sick and they were looking for a recipe for something that would make them better. But in any event, we found that as we went into each one of these communities, the story was the same. High growth, small, medium-sized businesses that really needed great packaging to compete. And so that in essence is who we are and what we're all about. And at the end of the day, our mission is to help small brands look like a big brand. And while we're doing that, give back to the communities we serve, and ensuring that our manufacturing platform all the while is sustainable and contributes to the circular economy. I'm going to turn it over now to the video we have queued up, and I guess I need to stop sharing the screen. So I'll do that.
So as we are getting the video that Carl will show us shortly started, we are also live on YouTube on Indygo Ghana's page. So if you have any friends or family members who can't join the Zoom link, you can just tell them to go to Indygo's YouTube page and they can join us from there. And again, it's an interactive conversation. So if you have any questions at all that's tailored to your business, or if you're a designer and you have any specific questions, just let us know in the chat box and we will address all those questions. So we're going to see if that video is ready so that we can watch it together.
If need be, I can also show it from my PC. There we go. I'm not hearing any audio.
All the junk that's in certain foods and a lot of stuff that I use to flavor my meals, I created paleo powder.
We started an LLC, found a shared kitchen, and started to make empanadas in the middle of the night.
All the junk that's in certain foods and a lot of stuff that I use to flavor my meals.
Digitally printed flexible packaging is indeed an untapped market. Less than 1% of flexible packaging today is produced digitally. So there is a market that is just beginning to understand what the benefits are to digital printing. My name is Carl Joachim. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of EPAC Flexible Packaging. We help small brands achieve big brand presence. These are often young entrepreneurs that are looking not only to go in their own direction in terms of forming a business, but they also have a social conscience and they're trying to bring alternatives to the market.
Paleo powder is an all-purpose seasoning and breadless breading that are sugar-free, gluten-free, junk-free, designed to add flavor to any meal that you're cooking with. very easy to find bottles and stick stickers. As we switched over to breadless breading, our problem is we didn't know where to start.
We started empanadas about 12 years ago. We care a lot about having the handcrafted quality of our product and using quality ingredients. We were hand packaging the empanadas into these cellophane bags, and it was a classic disaster. When you open up the box, the stickers had all fallen off, bags were breaking.
I've always wanted to start a business, and I dreamed really big. I was slaving away at night making granola and then selling it the next day. I would design something on my computer and print labels on sticker paper and cut them and paste them on my bag. I just realized we need something that looks amazing and that's ready to feel up and go. Started a business and I dreamed really big. Reached out to EPAC. We could do smaller runs. It was affordable. It was digital. I was like, yes, 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 and we went for it.
EPAC was a game changer for us. We've been able to introduce new fillings and new varieties within a matter of weeks.
We have a really bright, bold, colorful brand, and we got the bags in. They're everything we wanted and more.
We actually got into Whole Foods, which is huge.
We wouldn't have been able to do it without it.
When we're in Walmart, we're in Sprouts, the package stands out. If I come up with an idea, I can have it out and on the shelf and rock and roll in 15 days. For someone to be able to get that to me as a startup and kind of me fighting against the world has just been huge.
We've actually been able to grow the business, hire employees, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without that packaging.
It was really important for us to find a partner that had sustainable packaging, and so we used post-consumer recyclables.
Right away, I get comments on how beautiful my packaging is and how the colors stand out. It has transformed my business. We've had a few larger grocery stores contact us after we launched these pouches, which has been amazing just because we look ready for that next level. It's changed the whole game for us.
In all of those cities that we're in cities that we're not in, there are literally thousands of these small and medium-sized brands, these young entrepreneurs that are looking to make a difference. Almost all of them turn into repeat customers. We learn every day about their challenges. We see them with their eyes just wide open, looking to move into a market, and know that we can help thousands. And that is just the most gratifying feeling. About their challenges. We see them with their eyes wide open, looking to a market, and know that we can help thousands. And that is just the most gratifying feeling. About their challenges.
Thank you very much, Carl, for that beautiful video. I just want to ask if you have any closing remarks before we move on.
No, I mean, nothing specific. I think that maybe just one other thing is that as we've worked with these small, medium-sized brands, we've really been able to make a difference in terms of the quality of the packaging and some of the new visual effects that you're able to achieve as well. We also offer connected packaging. So for those brands that want to use the package through a QR code to a web experience to enhance the messaging behind that brand, we're into that type of technology now as well. But I think, I'll just turn it over to the next speaker, Jacob, I believe, and let you guys take it from here. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Carl. And before you go, I just want you to put this into context for us. Once EPAC started, what kind of opportunities were created for designers in the US, all the people who now came together to make the dreams of the SMEs work? Because some people have joined us, actually a large majority of people have joined us today, are designers who are also looking for opportunities within the food processing space.
Yeah, that's really a great question, Ziffa. Thanks for asking it. We have actually created a list of designers that we have worked with throughout. This is primarily in North America now, and to some degree we're doing it in Europe. But designing for a digital printing press is a little bit different than designing for conventional printing. And so we have probably 15 or 20 designers across the US, and that list is growing, of designers that we've worked with in the past. They work well with small, medium-sized brands. And that cuts down on the cost usually associated with, because you're using kind of a freelancer brand. These are not big agencies. So it cuts down on the design cost, and it can be designed specifically for digital printing, so you could take advantage of all those capabilities. So I guess the short answer would be there's a tremendous opportunity for designers to work with us.
Thank you very much. And that will segue us into our next presenter, who's Jacob Asari. He's been in the design space for over 7 years. And Jacob is that guy that if you are a newbie in the design world and you don't understand what it means to really do digital design that fits the needs of your client, he will just simplify the entire thing for you. And if you're an entrepreneur who has no design knowledge, he has a way of letting you understand that you have to look out for this and that so that you have a winning package, so that the end goal is to actually sell more products, reach more people, give the best of Ghana to the world. And Jacob is right at the center of that. So Jacob, I'm going to hand over to you now so you can walk us through your presentation. And again, it's an interactive conversation. So if you have any questions, just drop it in the chat box and then we'll get our speakers to answer all of them for you.
Thank you very much, Jufa. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacob Asari. I'm a package designer with experience of 7 years. I've been designing for brands that range from cosmetic to food packaging design. Please hold on whilst I share my screen. Yes. So the softwares I normally like to use are Illustrator and Photoshop. I mainly use Illustrator for package designing and Photoshop for photo manipulation and edits. So these are some of the projects I've worked on in the past 7 years. They range from food packaging design to cosmetic brands. So on today's agenda, I'll be speaking on what packaging design is, the 10 tips for creating a winning package design, and we'll conclude with the takeaways. So first of all, I'd like to talk about what packaging design is. It is the use of elements to communicate info to attract and sustain the interest of the target audience. But we should also know that package design is not limited to design only. We should consider the type of products, because that will also influence the type of package that will be used for the product. So I would like to take us through the 10 tips in creating a winning food package. First of all, what I normally like to do is I like to agree with the clients on their design brief. And the design brief is a document that defines the core details of the upcoming projects. Over the years, I've outlined certain key areas I normally focus or pay attention to. The first one is the target audience, the FDA specification, the SKUs, and the timeline. So I'll be speaking on the logo in the client's brief. So the logo is all about creating a perfect visual brand mark for a company. So for me personally, what I normally like to do is I like to create simple logos, simple but memorable logos, because when the logos are normally simple, we are able to integrate other elements of design to make the package design special or unique. And these are some of the logos I've worked on in the past 7 years. I'm also going to talk about the FDA specification. FDA in Ghana is responsible for the handing out certificates and approving food brands and food products in Ghana. So normally, these are some of the key areas I normally ask my clients for: the batch number, manufacturing dates, nutritional table, business location, contact details, ingredients, FDA number, net weight. As you can see in the slide, this is a sample of a package I designed for a client. It has a nutritional facts, it has a barcode, the address of the company, the ingredients. So this is an image to highlight my points. So another factor I also bring in is the SKU. The SKU is more like the variants or the flavors of the products. So when you are designing for your clients, you need to consider whether there will be variants, whether there will be other flavors, so that when you are designing your labels, you design them in such a way that they'll be able to integrate more flavors or more variants in the future. So then the next step in my process is to look online for inspirations. Looking online for inspiration is very important because it will help you see the works of other designers, what they've done, what is working for a specific country, what's working for a specific target audience. So it's very, very important to go online, get inspiration. And I normally use Behance, Dribble, Pinterest, and package of the world. So after I look online for the inspiration, I normally put them together to form my mood board. The mood board is a visual tool that communicates concepts and visual ideas. And normally the tools, online resources I like to use are Behance, Pinterest, and Illustrator. So with Illustrator, what I do is I normally open my artboard, bring all the inspiration, surround my artboard with the inspiration, and these help me in my design process. So the next thing I consider is the color palette. The color palette is very key because after understanding the design brief, it will help you get the attention of your target audience. Because the colors, they assist the brands in distinguishing products, packaging, and it also helps them stand out. So let's say, for instance, we are designing for a baby food brand. Let's say we can go with strong colors, we can go with soft colors. You're not limited to only light colors. So, I mean, the power of EPAC makes it possible to even use unorthodox colors, very bright colors to make our packaging stand out. So we are not limited to colors when we are designing for a particular target audience, be it babies, be it millennials, be it old people. So these are examples of color palettes that you can get access to online. You can go to Pinterest, you can go to Behance, you can go to Dribble. You get unlimited inspiration for color palettes. So the next thing I normally do after selecting my color palette is to select a fitting typography. And typography is very, very important in package design. It helps to catch the consumer's attention as well as convey the product information and company message. So as you can see in the screen, we have two sets of fonts. One has serif and one is playful. And for a baby, so I'll be using a baby brand as my case study. So for a baby brand, there's no way we can use the serif for the baby food packaging because it wouldn't even be able to convey the idea or concept you want to give to our customers. So you see, for the first typography, it has a playful factor to it. So that would definitely be the best option for the baby food brand. The online resources I normally like to use are Font Space and Behance. Okay, we should also pay attention to the fact that when we are downloading fonts from the internet, we should pay attention to the legal sides of the fonts, because we don't want a situation where we design a package for a client and they are sued by owners of their fonts. So we should be very, very careful about that. So the next thing I normally do is after getting my typography right, I play with the I use high quality imagery, and imagery is very, very important in package design. When used well, imagery can create visual excitement, memorable experiences, and recognizable touch points. Let's say, for instance, you go to a supermarket and you want to buy or purchase a product and you forget the name of the brand. I mean, a certain feature or a certain imagery will help you remember the products. So let's say you go to the attendant and you're like, I want the pouch, or I want the box with the lion on it, or I want the yellow packaged pouch. I mean, it will help you remember the type of products you are looking for. And I normally like to use Free Pick, Unsplash, Pixabay. You're not limited to these. There are unlimited online resources you can use for these things. So after selecting my quality imagery, I like to play. What I do next is I like to play with the layouts. Shift the elements of design up, try new layouts, and see what works best. So I normally take inspiration from my mood board. The inspiration we spoke about. The first step: download images, study their layout, study how the elements of design are arranged. And another key thing I like to include in my design is less elements of design. So we should know that less is more. So we shouldn't crowd our packaging. We should make it less. We should make it less so that it will be able to communicate the brand's concept. So I attached two layouts in my slide. On the left, you can see that the elements are shifted upwards, and the font, logo, and the other details are brought down. In the second image, you can see the elements are brought down, and the typography, the logo are all up there. So as a package designer, I need to play with the fonts to get new layouts, new designs, and so that I'll be able to present them to your clients and get the best possible design. So the next thing I normally like to do is I like to implement hierarchy in my designs. Hierarchy is very, very important in package design. Package design hierarchy is the order in which you place importance on the flow of communication on your package. So let's say you want to place importance on the logo. You make the logo very big. You want to place importance on the product name. You make the products very, very big. And in the illustration I added, you can see in the illustration I added, you can see we automatically read the text. You automatically read the text in the white background. That is what we see first. After that, we see, and then you read this. So in package design, we can play with the elements, we can play with the logo, we can play with the fonts to get what we want to communicate. So the next thing I do is I use doc mockups. So this is very, very important when presenting to the client, because you want the client to have a feel of what the final product will look like, or to experience the idea behind the products. So they make your design look more professional and help the clients get an idea of what design can look in real world context. So some of the online resources I normally use for this is Unblast, Mr. Pixel, Behance. There are unlimited mockup resources you can download and use for your designs. So I would like to also add an extra tip to the 10 tips I conveyed today. Investing in paid resources. As a package designer, this is very, very important. There are a lot of free resources, but if you want to stand out, if you want quality, if you want to be legally protected, you should make an effort to purchase online resources from time to time, because we don't want a situation where in future you'll be sued by the owner of certain mockups or fonts you use in your design. And also we should use them because premium mockups are normally of high quality. They help you stand out from what's already on the market. So to conclude, design is intelligence made visible. This is a favorite quote of mine from Alina Wheeler. When you're designing, there should be a level of intelligence to it. You should be able to convey intelligence in your design. So we in today's message, we conveyed what packaging was, what the 10 tips for creating a winning packaging was. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, I would like to answer them.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Jacob. And I love your last slide, by the way. It's like, It's a design class on its own. So I know that there are probably some designers here who may have questions for Jacob. So please write it in the chat box so that he can answer. But Jacob, a question from the perspective of an entrepreneur.
Okay.
How do we also ensure that we give the designers space to be as creative as possible when we are starting? What are some of the mistakes that we make that may make your job difficult as a designer?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes. So entrepreneurs who don't know anything about the packaging world,
Yeah.
what are the things that they need to brush up on so that when they meet a designer like you, you are able to get exactly what they're looking for and convey it in a way that potential clients will love and want to use their product?
Okay, so I think from their perspective, they can do a little bit research, to understand their design process, so that normally, from my experience, normally clients think design is 24 hours work. You just snap your fingers and the work is done. That is not how it is at all. As designers, we need space to be able to think, to be able to put our ideas or concepts to life. So normally we need time, but I mean, it doesn't mean as designers we should spend a lot of time delaying, Yeah, so from my personal experience, that's the best answer I can give.
Awesome. We have some questions here. So Bambara Regine says, I didn't hear you talk about user experience included in our design, specifically when we are designing food packaging. Can you touch a bit on that for us, Jacob?
Okay, so with user experience, this is where IPA comes in. They are abreast with the latest technologies, the latest know-how, the latest materials, the latest science, to be able to answer all these questions. So IPAC that is why IPAC is hosting this event, because they have mind-blowing technology to help solve that issue. Yeah.
Last question. Joseph actually says he wants to find out more about typography. If you can just talk a bit about that. And
okay.
Another one here. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so typography, it helps catch the consumer's attention as well as convey the information and company message. So when I'm talking about typography, I'm talking about the fonts we use in package designing, Yeah, so let's say we are, as I said, we are designing for a baby food brand. We need to target playful fonts. We need to target fonts that are fun. And I think we should stay off. So you need to study your target audience in this situation. So let's say the baby food brand, there's no way you can use a serif for a baby food brand. That wouldn't work at all. You understand? Yeah, so we should consider that. And I think with typography, we'll be having future classes for that, so that we go in depth to deal with that.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jacob, for that. And he's still around, so we'll answer some of your questions later. We sent out a questionnaire about the people. Well, we have a thing for you to fill out now, so we get an idea of how many designers we have and how many entrepreneurs we have, because a lot of our questions seem to be coming a lot from designers. So we're going to post that poll right here and ask you to just spend a few minutes filling it out for us so that the speakers who come after Jacob will have a clear idea who our audience may be, where they're coming from, and what they may be looking out for. And just keep sending your questions in as well. So here we have it. So the first question is, are you a food packaging designer? Please click yes or no for us to know. If you're a food producer, you can click yes, so we have an idea. And if you don't fit under any of it, you can let us know as well. And is this your first time hearing about EPAC? I must admit that I heard about EPAC first a few months ago, and I was blown away that I didn't know about them this whole time. And it's been transformational seeing all the entrepreneurs whose businesses will be able to reach great lengths just with the services that EPAC has for them. So the fifth one is, have you used digital press for your packaging before? Which I'm sure most entrepreneurs will probably have the best answer to that. And then, how did you hear about this conference? And then you're done, so that we have an idea of exactly who's here, where they're coming from, and how best to serve you moving forward. So I think if we're all done, we'll start getting ready for our next presenter. But again, it's an interactive conversation. We really want to ensure that designers get the most out of this so that if you meet any food producer, you are able to help them. The next presentation will come from Paul Rayson. He's the Managing Director of EPAC in the Middle East. He's also responsible for Europe and he's responsible for Africa. He's directly connected to us. He has many years of experience in the food manufacturing space, and he's bringing all of that to us today. So if you have any questions for Mr. Rayson, just put it in the chat box as well before his presentation. And I'm going to hand on over to him now so that he shares what he has for us as the MD of EPAC Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Paul, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm here with you. Thank you so much indeed. It's very kind of you. Thank you for the introduction. I'm going to just share my screen. Can you see that okay?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, so my name is Paul Rayson. I'm the MD for EPAC in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And prior to joining EPAC Flexible Packaging, I was involved with Hershey's chocolate. And I started an ice cream business for a company called Jelly Belly, which make jelly beans, and they're based out of California. So we launched an ice cream brand for them in the US, in the UAE and Dubai. And I created that brand from scratch. And then I was also involved with the rollout of Dunkin' Donuts across parts of the Middle East. So that's a quick introduction, and I'm now pleased to be with the EPAC family. And as Carl and Victor said earlier on in their presentations, we help small brands achieve big brand status. You've heard that a few times already today. But that process really starts with our customers and the packaging designs. And as in the previous presentation, you had a lot of great information about what designers need for them to be successful in creating excellent design concepts for their brands and their customers. And that really sort of boils down to good intelligence gathering and brand assets. So if you look at the intelligence and brand assets that I talked to you about, that really does start. The beginning part of that process really should be market research. And normally there are companies like AC Nielsen that I have used for over 20 years that specialize in market research. And this is what the big brands use. And it's what I've used in my past as well. And it typically starts with what I would call a UNA study, which is a usage and attitude study. So that gives you an incredibly good detailed insight into how customers are interacting using brands and products within a specific category, whatever that category is. And then that leads into trends and so forth. And then out of that information and data, once you drill down into that, there can be an opportunity to understand what white space is available in your specific market that you could potentially exploit, and how you position your product moving forward. Also, market research includes blind tasting. So if you're in the food category, or tea or coffee or baby food or whatever it is, I would strongly recommend blind tasting. And I think that the benefit there is, I think that once you've completed your R&D process, the blind tasting results really does give you confidence about your product and your brand and your idea moving forward. And I think that in addition to that, I think results of that blind taste is something that you can share with partners down the line. You can share it with retailers, and you can share it with distributors to give them confidence as well as you move your products and brands through channels, right? So that's a quick intro on market research. One of the other components that big brands do often is what I would call the North Star. What is their guiding light moving forward? And that can be broken down into what I would call market convention, the human truth, signal from within, and the brand vision. So the market convention is basically a window into a category and what is actually happening out there. How do people see that category? It's very similar to the UNA study, but it's additional information over and above that. And then the human truth is all about your target market and understanding your target market and their lives, basically. And then the signal from within is basically the brand's uniqueness. It's the product versus experience that helps solve potential tension points in consumers' lives. And then the brand vision is breaking the convention and then connecting with consumers by solving their tension that makes sense to them and believable as it comes from the brand within. So the target market, so point 3 here, deep understanding of the target market. This is a critical point that I'd like to raise. So interestingly enough, last year I was in Egypt and I had a meeting with a company called Oreo. I'm sure everybody knows Oreo. And what happened is that Oreo had a plastic packaging concept that they put their ice cream into. And they decided that they would remove the idea of plastic from their product line and move to paper for obvious reasons, right? So what actually happened is that as soon as they put the paper packaging into the market, the sales literally came to a grinding halt. And I asked the team at Oreo, what happened? You know, why did that stop? Literally sales stopped. What happened? And they said, well, we made a mistake. What we realized is that the plastic container, the packaging, was once they consumed the ice cream, they were washing it and then putting their pens and pencils in it. And as a result, they stopped buying our product because it was paper and they couldn't use it. So they quickly mobilized and then went back to plastic to make sure that their sales continue to make a profit. So understanding your target market is critical. And then we talk about brand values and personality. I think brand values and brand personality are pretty straightforward for everybody. All the designers that are listening to this understand brand personality and values and so forth. So one of the other things that a lot of brands do is they do brand hierarchy, which basically consists of core equity, functional insights, social insights, voice and tone, brand promise, and brand positioning. So the core equity is what your brand will be known for. It's the tangible asset that is at the very core of what you're doing. And the functional insight is what makes the consumption a unique experience. The social insight is where the emotional connection comes in with the brand. And the voice and tone is, and we just, the previous presenter kind of alluded to this quite a bit in the form of typography, right? So, with regards to baby food, he mentions that it needs to be playful, and he's right. What is your brand's tone and voice? Is it supposed to be happy? Is it supposed to be playful? Or is it supposed to be creative or honest? Whatever you come up with, stick with it and make sure that all communication across the line reflects that. The brand promise is basically typically a few short, punchy words that represents the very essence of your brand. And some people call that a positioning. Some people call it a brand promise. In terms of brand guidelines, again, in the previous presentation, logo development, color palettes, typography, photographic treatments as well. The first 3 points in the previous presentation were communicated very well. The photographic treatments is also a component of that. You know, does your packaging need to include photography to really make it stand out? And if so, how does your photography get treated? What are the do's and what are the don'ts? In terms of packaging format and sizes, what I would strongly suggest is have a look at different disciplines that may help you understand what kind of format, what kind of size is relevant for your particular product and your particular brand. So, you know, if you go to retail, you may want to understand exactly where am I going to be displaying this product and why, and I think that will help quite a bit. There's also the logistic component as well, in as far as cost, right? So the bigger the pack, the more expensive your logistics. There's also the competitive landscape as well, and I would strongly recommend that people go out there and understand what their competitive landscape is, because you know that may create an opportunity for you to recognize a way of look, we can do this better. And I've seen amazing examples of SMEs doing packaging better than brands like Unilever. And Unilever loses millions and millions and millions of dollars every year to the SMEs because they are focused. They are exploiting and exploring areas that maybe Unilever can't get to. So, you know, so it can be done. So the last point here on this slide is about legal. And in my experience, please do have a look at trademark registrations. That's key. You want to make sure that you protect your brand and your logos. And that also applies to how you register that brand in a particular classification, whatever that may be. So factor that in. And also strap lines. I have personal experience with strap lines, which again goes back to your brand essence, kind of, right? So, and the brand positioning is also about, you know, not what you are today, but what you're going to be. So it's a future promise to consumers. It's a future positioning, not a current. So it's where you're going to be. And strap lines, yeah, be careful of that, because, you know, I had previous experience where, you know, we came up with a strap line and then we realized several months later that actually the strap line was very similar to a well-known brand. And we definitely didn't want to go up against those guys in terms of litigation. So please factor that in. If you have a look at competitors, I talked about it again before, but do have a look at their packaging concepts across the channel. So, you know, if they're in the modern trade, go to the modern trade. If they're in the general trade, go to the general trade. Or if they're across both, go and have a look at both. Look at how they're displaying, look at what types of products, what can you exploit that makes your brand better, more strident, more visible versus your competitors. So understand the type of materials that they use. Can you get a better material? Have a look at their branding and colors, and understand how to make your brand more appealing. If you look at Magnum, this picture, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but look, you know, Magnum is a hugely successful brand. It's Unilever's biggest ice cream brand. And they know very well that that product will be displayed where consumers are looking at it from where they're looking down on the product as opposed to looking, let's say, into the product, right, from the front. So what Magnum have done is they've designed the packaging that is appealing from top as well as from the front. right? So they know that when they put it into a chest freezer where people are looking down on it, it looks appealing. And what I've seen is in retail on so many cases is that brands have not taken into consideration that their packaging may be looked at from different angles. So just factor that in as well. And I think designers need to factor that in as well. In terms of connecting with your target market, do you have a story to tell? You know, is there an emotional link that you can incorporate? Carl talked about it earlier on, about people that have become sick and they're out looking for a specific product that's going to make them feel better. That's a story. You know, what claims can you make? If you're a coffee company, can you talk about being fair trade? If you look at the previous design, I could see on the packaging designs that, you know, calories was there, and it was strident. So, you know, if you're talking about baby food, that's a key consideration. So talking about packaging considerations, some of the things that you may want to think about when you're designing products is, do you need to show products through a window? If you're a coffee brand, probably not. But, you know, if you're doing biltong, yeah, it may make sense. Or if you're doing candy, it may make sense. Or do you need more canvas space to be more strident and to have a brand that's sitting on the shelf and more appealing because you've got more canvas space? So understand how your products will be displayed at retail. It's important. What type of packaging material we talked about. Make it practical for customers as well. I mean, we spoke about Oreo and plastic versus paper and what the customers were doing with it. But, you know, understand how customers are going to use that packaging, and is it practical for them? And we talked about understand the size requirements. Distributors. I've worked with distributors in the past, and we, you know, if you're not using a distributor and you're managing distribution yourselves, which for SMEs is possible, but as your business grows and as it evolves, you know, eventually you'll probably be using a distributor. So, you know, you've got to convince them that your brand is going to sell through. And part of that is data and intelligence. So give them as much data and intelligence on your brand as possible, and make it convincing. You can discuss the size of the packaging for shipments, and so they can help you understand costs and so forth. It's the same thing for retailers. On the design side, what I would like to add is, other than some of the points that have already been mentioned before, have a look at point B here. What are the different types of packaging? So we deal in pouches and stock rolls and things like that, but it's important that designers understand that that particular product may end up into different types of packaging, like bottles or flip boxes or whatever it is. So make sure that, you know, your design can carry over into different types of packaging. And again, we mentioned photos as well. This is an example of some packaging that I saw in the US a few weeks ago, and actually this was all on the same shelf. It was a basically a beef jerky shelf, and you had on the left here, you had Sweet and Spicy, which is very much an SME type company. That's who we work with. And on the right, Jack Links as well. And again, these are companies that we still work with, but you can see the difference. Now, if I was going to that area and I wanted beef jerky, I'd probably go and buy the Jack Links. Why? Because it just looks better and it looks more appetizing. And this is why it's important for brands like Sweet and Spicy to come to designers like yourselves and to packaging experts like ourselves, because they're going to struggle if they don't actually improve their brand at retail. It will struggle to sell through. About EPAC, so in terms of our digital printing, so we work exclusively with a company called HP. I'm sure everybody here is aware of HP. It's carbon neutral digital printing. We now have around 51, 52 Indygo presses around the various plants that Carl told you about earlier on. And we're sort of consumed around $40 million on consumables, which basically makes us HP Indygo's largest partner, largest customer, if you like, in the world right now. And I think that when brands and let even end users or consumers understand that your packaging has come from a carbon neutral facility, I think that's a good story to tell. Yeah. Carl mentioned earlier on about connected ePack Connect, and that's basically QR codes interacting with the web to increase customer engagement. And he talked about that. That's something that we're very proud of and that we can help our customers with. And the ePack Ghana team can work with the local community on helping them understand that better as well. And then we have variable data printing. So I'm not so sure that this is something that brands should do right from the get-go, but I think that as a celebration or a special occasion, I think that these kind of things, that they could work with ePack Ghana on delivering something that's quite unique through variable data imprinting. That's where the labels send different messages. And we do that through this technology that we have, this special software technology that we have. And then there's what we call digitally enhanced packaging through mosaic and collages. So again, I think that this is related to, if you look at the mosaic, I've seen the brand in the US, and it's recently done something to celebrate the Olympics as well, the recent Olympics in Japan. So each pack is using different colors, but all within the color palette family that's approved by the brand. And the collage is allows designers to control for variable repetition, rotation and size. Not sure if you can see it on this deck, but basically those three products that all belong to the same SKU, actually the printing on it is different to every one of them is different. So yeah, it's just kind of playful and interesting, and could create a lot of good publicity. Yeah, so let's skip through this. And again, so this is the SmartStream mosaics, something that Nutella, depending on how you say it. Yeah, it's playful and it's fun, but I wouldn't necessarily advise brands to do this on a regular basis, but I think as a celebration, it could work well. Yeah, so look, that sort of brings me to the end of my presentation. I think I've gone way past my 10 minutes, but I mean, I think that hopefully that was helpful and insightful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. We learned so much. I have a few questions for you, so please stay on. The first question is, as small brands, how do we psych ourselves up to think as big brands? You know, because when you're on the supermarket shelf, the customer may not care how small your operation is. If it looks good, then they will pick it up. And how do designers also align with that? And then my second question is, how important is it for us to include customers from the very beginning? Piggyback on the Oreo example you used, I'm sure if they had asked their potential market how they felt about it, it would have helped them not make that mistake. And we can afford those kind of mistakes. So how important is the customer experience from the very beginning?
When you talk about the customer experience from the beginning, are you talking about things like blind tasting?
It's what I know about packaging that we currently may be considering. I assume they will like something. They may not necessarily want what they like.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I lost you a little bit.
Okay. The question is, the Oreo example you used, how do we also ensure as entrepreneurs and designers ensure that we engage our customers in every decision that we may take?
That's a really great question. I mean, in my previous roles, I don't think we necessarily presented every single decision-making, let's say, T-junction to customers. No, I mean, I think that from the very beginning, I think that you got to spend time with your customers. You got to engage with your customers as much as possible. And I think that, and I think you've got to listen to customers as much as you can, because I definitely think it helps. But I don't think necessarily you need to ask the customer at every single critical decision. You got to get their feedback. No. I don't, but you got to try and engage with them as much as possible. But sometimes I think you just got to get on with it based on a lot of hard work at the very beginning. And as you evolve, you'll keep doing it. But I don't think you'll get strong messages from consumers as you evolve and grow. But I don't think it's a balance. I think it's just a balance. Of making sure that you still need to do so many other things, but you need to listen to customers too as much as you possibly can, because they will tell you what they want. But it goes back to what I said earlier on. Unilever loses millions of dollars every year to the SME market, and that comes about as a result of not listening to customers as much as they should, right? So you got to be out in the field, and you got to be talking to people, and you got to get their feedback. But I wouldn't necessarily every single decision customers have to approve it. No.
Thank you very much, Paul, for clarifying that for us.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Move right along and engage Daniel on the next presentation. He's going to talk to us about best practices before you go to press. So this one is specifically tailored for the designers out there. You need to dot your I's and cross your T's. Daniel has been in this space for over 10 years. He's worked with big brands like Avnash. Avnash is a huge brand in Ghana. He's also worked with the Lodina Foundation. He's worked with so many different organizations. So he's going to walk us through everything. And he's also EPAC's pre-press designer. So EPAC's pre-press designer works with Nutri-Foods and a lot of big brands. So Daniel, I'm going to hand it over to you now. So you let us know the things we need to pay attention to before we go to press.
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone out there. So we're going to look at the best practices for digital printing. I always say that how your design looks on the screen can be entirely different when it is printed out. And so you would have to follow certain practices in order for your design to come out well. And so these are some of the things that we're going to look at. Of course, it's going to be a little technical, but I will try and then break it down for all of us to also understand it. And it's not only for designers, but the food producers and yes, the other manufacturers is going to help us. And so it will be beneficial for us to get seated and then also go through well. So I am Daniel Kwekubuache, as Jiva has already said, the graphic designer, packaging, the 3D modeling designer. So that's it. I've done a lot of works for big companies. And so I will take you through the processes for us to also understand what should we expect at the end of this presentation. And so one, know what pre-press is, a brief definition of it, and then we're going to be able to get our artworks ready for pre-press. And that is one thing that we are geared towards doing for now. So what is pre-press? So I always say it is about it is basically the process of preparing digital files for printing press. So making them ready, as I've said, you have designed, but then sometimes when your design is printed, you get it differently from what you have done. And so this is the process. We prepare the artworks so that it gets into the press without any challenges, And so we ask ourselves, is it even necessary to prepare artworks for the pre-press? And that is what we're going to look at. So number one, it prevents delay in printing of artwork. So this reduces the back and forth in making sure that the design is approved for production. So sometimes if these things are not done and these rules are not followed, our artwork gets to the pre-press and then it will have to come back again. We will have to change certain things. We have to correct certain things. At the end of the day, it ends up delaying the actual work. And so the second one is it ensures that the artwork is not altered. So changes in fonts, missing images, artwork truncated. These are challenges that often happens when works are not prepared correctly and rightly for the pre-press. And then also it reduces cost. When I talk about reduces cost, especially with the food producing agencies and individuals, you realize that sometimes your designer will not do the right thing, brings it to for pre-press, and then at the end of the day, you have to change this and change that. You end up chasing the designer, you don't get the designer, you have to employ another person, and it's a whole lot. So it is always better you get things done right and then done in the correct manner. So let's jump into it, and then we look at what it holds for us. We're getting started. One thing that we should consider, and my brother Jake talked about, that he uses Illustrator for the packaging designs and then uses the Photoshop for manipulation of pictures. And that is something that you should do. Even as packaging designers, that is what we have to do. It is best to go in for vector-based programs like the Adobe Illustrator, so that your works will be sharper for any other printing that should be done. Remember, Photoshop is a pixel based, and so sometimes when you design in Photoshop and you zoom it, you realize that a lot of things are even pixelating. And so vector based programs are solid for us to work with. And so with your fonts and your everything, it will be solid for you to work with. And so we'll move on to setting up our document, and boom, it comes here. Those of us, the designers, you realize that you will meet this interface often. And I always say that as a designer, this dialog box should be the Lord and personal savior of your design life. It is, because it's going to save you lots of time. I say it is the Lord and personal savior of your design life, because if you should get things right over here, it will save you lots of time and then lot of cost. So when you look at point one, when you open Adobe Illustrator, and this is a screenshot of Adobe Illustrator, when you open it, you see this section, and you should always click on the print, because we are dealing with printout. When you go to web and all the others, it's not going to give you the right even color modes to deal with. And so you select print, and that is number one. And then number two is the width. You make sure you get the width and the dimensions correctly. I'll tackle this in the other slide for us to indeed understand these things. Number three is the unit that you work in, and that is something that you also need to. It's best anytime I'm working in the millimeters and in the centimeters, I can stretch it to the inches, but these ones are very good, even as designers, so that you can adjust a little dimensions, and then it will work for you. And then number four, You go to the color mode. Which mode are you supposed to work with? I'll tackle it in the other slide for us to look at. And then the resolution of the document. That is also one area that we will look at. And so we go to getting your artwork dimensions right, getting it right. You know, especially with the designers, because they've won the contract, they want to put certain things together, they put it together, and then you come, it's back and forth. They don't even have the dimensions and all that. It ends up delaying the work. So it is always better to get your dimensions right and get it right and get it right. And so when you look at the dimensions, I have this spread here, and then I have the product in a modeled form. So this is an artwork I created for one of the clients. And anytime you want to get your dimension, especially if it is, let's say something like a pouch. So this is a standard pouch. And then when you spread it, this is how it's going to look like. So always have the spread of your package in mind, so that when you are entering in your dimensions, you can get the artboard ready, so that you do everything together and do it once and for all. As I said, you do it once and then for all. So with this package, you see that we have the back side, which is 160. Sorry. You have the back side, which is 160. You have the base, which is 40. And then you have the front, which is 160. So you put everything together, and then it will give you the total length, which is 360. And then you have the other side too, which is 80 mm. So it is always better to spread your product so that you can get the total measurement. And then one thing that you should also never forget to do, and that is what I've indicated over here, when your artwork is submitted, you should always get the bleeds area, and that is the area that goes beyond even the trimming marks and the die line areas. So this is the section. So let's say your artwork is 80 mm, you should add a bleed minimum of about 3 mm, so that you add it to the artwork. So all your designs are within the artwork. So in case even the red area is the curtain line. So in case even it shifts, it's not going to affect the artwork. So the bleed areas is very critical, and we would have to, even as designers, we don't like doing these things, but it will save us a lot of problems when the trimming is being done. Now, so at EPAC, when you send in, or when you come for your quote, we're going to give you the quote and then add even the die lines to the code for you, so that you can submit to the designer. That is why I told the food producing people that it is also going to benefit them. We will get your measurement and then submit the die line also to you. So all what your designer got to do is to lift it and then position the artworks within the die line, so that it doesn't affect the entire work. So we come to color mode. In the dialog box, I talked about the color mode, and then you see the CMYK. In fact, when you click the print media, it's automatically going to give you the CMYK color mode, so that you don't need to even come here, but always make sure it's in CMYK color mode, because the press understands the CMYK than the RGB, and that is something that we will need to get. RGB is for the screen, but the presses deals with the CMYK color mode, and that is one thing that you have to do. There shouldn't be any element of RGB in your work, and we should again get that. And so probably you have done your project and you did it in RGB. You finished the entire project in RGB. What do? Have you lost everything? There is a way out. You've not lost everything, but then there is something that as a designer you can do. So you quickly have to convert your work from RGB to CMYK color mode. And so when you go to the file menu, you click on the document color. you would see that this side was the artwork was done in RGB color. So you just select the CMYK color mode, and then it converts your work to RGB for you. But then always realize that when it is converted, you're going to see a little difference in your artwork. So as I said, the dialog box, the new document dialog box should be taken care of when beginning your design. So if it is in RGB on the screen, it looks very bright. So sometimes you would print your artwork, it comes and then the colors are down. And you are like, no, these are not the colors I selected. It is because you did not select the right color mode. And so when you convert, it will save you a lot of hassle, but then you see some little changes in the color mode. And then we go to the resolution. So the resolution, you've got to set it to 300 dpi or ppi so that all the items in the document will be printed and will be printed very sharp. And I tell you, as my seniors said, the Indygo will print your package for you. And when you see the product, it's like the product is even coming out of the package. When you set these things right, you will not get things done in another manner. In fact, in some countries, when you submit your work, they don't even have the time to go through some of these things, and they're going to print it out for you as it is. But with ePack, we're going to check all these things and then get back to you if these things are not done and done in the correct manner. And so these are some of the things that we should also take care of. And so before our artworks are submitted, we should ensure the following, so that even as designers and even as food producing people, these things are going to help us. All artwork should be in CMYK. And as I've said, no RGB files or elements should be found. Files that are provided in RGB will not be accepted. So the delay comes here again. If the designer doesn't set it well, the food producer, you've got to do these things again and the back and forth. It ends up delaying the entire printing process. And that is something that we have to also note. Now, the second point every designer should check is your text must be outlined or the font included with the file when submitting. So I have this screenshot here in this product, and this is text that is not outlined. When we say the text is not outlined, so it means you haven't converted the text. So when you submit the artwork and the artwork is opened, you realize that immediately Illustrator will tell you some fonts are missing. So it is either you include the font you used in a separate folder and then submit your artwork with that particular folder. But as I always say, you might forget. So it is always safe that you convert your text into object, or you convert them into outlines, so that when the artwork is open, there wouldn't be any font changing over there. So when you convert it, you will see that when the font is not converted, you see this line underneath the text. When you click on them and you see these things, you note that the text are not converted. But when you convert them, you see that it's like the text have been drawn. So this is a quick tip for the designers to help us. And then files must be saved and sent in their native or original format. So do not send a JPEG file. I recall in one press, we had a particular work that ought to be printed, and the designer sent it as a picture. It was like, oh, this is a high resolution picture. No artwork should be submitted in a picture format or in a JPEG file. So if you design in Illustrator, make sure that you save the work in Illustrator and then you submit it. If you design in any other program, any vector program, some would like to use CorelDRAW, but we would suggest that you work in Illustrator. So you save the native or the original format and then you submit it. Again, when you're submitting the PDF, you make sure that you save all the SKUs differently. And these are some of the things that you need to look at. Some would want to save the file. Let's say you have about 8 SKUs Like the artwork I show, that is moringa. They have cocoa powder, they have other products. So let's say 8. Do not save all the works in one particular file and then send it. It will tend to create a lot of issues. So if it is moringa, save moringa PDF or moringa illustrator file, and then the other ones you do same, and then it will take you off the hassle. So number 4, the clear areas need to be clearly defined and include a white separation. So when you design and in your work, you have clear areas in your artwork, you make sure that you indicate it with the color and then let it show that this is where the product window is going to come. That is where the product window will be. So I have done the mock-up for you to see. So when the final product is printed and it is filled, you will see the product here. So this side becomes the product window. Always specify the product window for production to take off smoothly. Again, all images must have a minimum of 300 dpi resolution, and all images must be preferably embedded or the images saved in a linked folder. So again, if you use images, and my brother Jake talked about images, make sure you invest in good quality images. The food producers, and we make sure we invest. If it requires getting a professional photographer to take the pictures, let them do that so that you use them and then your product becomes unique even on the market. And so as a designer, you make sure that your images are embedded in the artwork. So if I talk about embedment, so it means that you need to fix them in the artwork. Now, if you use any image and it is not embedded, you would see this cross sign when you click on them, and then this borderline around the image, and it shows that the image is not embedded. Sorry, the image is not embedded. So what you do is that you go to the Windows section in Illustrator, and then you click on the links. So it will open this dialog box for you, and then it will show you all the images you have used. And so when you get there, you click on this icon here, you come to embed images, and then it will embed it for you. So when it is embedded, you will get this white box around the image, and that shows that indeed you have embedded the image, and you get this icon to beside the image. So this is a quick tip for the designers. Make sure that you embed your images. If not, you need to save all the images in a particular folder and then submit it with the file. But again, to save you all this hassle, just embed them and then we take it from there. Again, your barcode should be vector based. Your barcode, do not submit any barcode in JPEG. So this is an example of a vector-based barcode which was generated, and this is pixel. So you would see that in this one, if the artwork or if it is printed, because it's vector, it's going to come out very sharp. But if it is JPEG, you see it pixelating, and the scanners are such that if you have these things not clear enough, it will not be able to scan it. And so always make sure that your barcodes are in vector. That is one thing that you would need to also look at. All Pantone colors should be kept as spot colors. And then number 7, any file that has a custom spot color specified must be accompanied with the color target. If not, it will be converted to CMYK. And over here, EPAC is going to prompt you that this and that. If you accept it, the colors are converted. Otherwise, when you have signed to these things, it does not become the responsibility of EPAC anymore, but then you approving that particular file. So in conclusion, what I've talked about, always use a vector-based design software. So to the designers, do not design in Photoshop and submit them. Please get a vector-based program and then use. Always design in CMYK. Get your dimensions correct from the start point, and then artwork must have a bleed of 0.125 inches or 3 mm on all designs, on all sides of the design. As I've explained earlier on, images must have a minimum of 300 dpi and must be embedded, and then make sure you link all the images or embed all the images, convert every font into outlines, and then make sure that barcodes are in vectors. So I thank you for listening. I know it was a little technical, but then as designers, it's going to save us all this hassle. Thank you for making time to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very detailed presentation, Daniel. And you're getting a lot of comments here. New Love says that he's enlightened now, and he normally has issues with design in terms of colors. So a lot of people love your presentation, and it's not as technical as you thought it would be. The rest of us are able to now consume what to pay attention to, what to do right, what not to do right, which will save us a lot of time and stress. And we'll just focus on getting the right packages for our clients. Again, this is Ghana's first ever food packaging conference. We want to ensure that if you're a customer and you are an SME and you want to make sure you give your customers the best possible product, that you have the right designers, you have the right packaging company that you're working with, and that you don't need to be a big brand to still provide quality. So Manny says converting the, and you guys have to help with this technical stuff, Pantone colors to spot colors is done how? Please answer that for us, Daniel, because I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so when you, unless I'm logged in, but then when you get to Illustrator and get to the color swatches part, after selecting all your artwork, there is an icon at the color swatches, the right top corner of it. When you click on it, to give you those details for you to click on it. So when you click on it, automatically to give you, it will convert all these colors. And again, if you have other colors that you have to also convert, that is the same process you go through, and then it will quickly convert these colors for you. Yes.
Thank you. At this point, we're going to watch a brief animated video from EPAC that's going to answer all the questions we have as far as how do we get our packaging on time? How do we, ensure that we have access to top quality designers? How do we ensure that when it comes to competing and differentiating ourselves on a part of the look and feel of our products, EPAC team will have us covered. So we're going to watch that. And again, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat box and I'll ensure that all our speakers answer them. So let's take a look at the video now.
Marketing manager for Nature Bites, a small but rapidly growing natural food manufacturer. Lauren has a dilemma. Ordering flexible packaging has become way too complex and slow, unable to keep pace with Nature Bites' growth. From paying for printing plates, selecting the right materials and pouch style, to lead times of 6 to 8 weeks and high minimum order requirements, everything about the process frustrates Lauren. Then Lauren heard about EPAC, so she called them and explained her challenges. Known for lightning fast turnaround, low minimum orders, and great graphics, she discovered that EPAC's digital printing platform produced photo quality graphics with no plate fees, and customers are able to print to demand and reduce costly inventory and obsolescence. And best of all, EPAC ships in 10 days. So if you're in a business like Lauren and want to save on packaging costs and receive beautiful custom printed packaging that's delivered in days instead of months, then contact EPAC for a consultation right now. EPAC, it's flexible packaging made easy.
So that's a bit more about EPAC for those of us who may not already know about this amazing brand that's going to take Made in Ghana products to the next level and ensure that we are now finally able to compete on price, we can compete on quality, and also compete on packaging. And it doesn't matter how small or big your business is, we can take what you have and ensure that you're competitive against any brand in the world. We're now going to hear about what it takes to be a great designer. We've learned about what it takes to do your design well. Well, we've also learned about what we need to do, the things we need to check off before we go to printing. Now, Daniel Ampofo will define what it means to be a great designer for us. So Daniel, please take us away.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's been
It's been a very interesting day, very insightful session so far. My session is the last session, and we will be talking about what makes a great designer. I'll introduce myself first. I am Daniel Ampofo, and this is how I touch the world. In the past 8 years, I have been running 93 Studios, which is a branding and marketing company. I also wear the hat of vice president at the Hack Lab Foundation, where we're organizing hackathons and tech events that inspire African developers. And finally, Dex Ghana. Dex Ghana is a community of creatives all over Ghana. We organize the biggest or the largest design conference here in Ghana. So I will be talking about what makes a great designer. I mean, at the end of my presentation, there are a number of things that you should be able to do. First thing is you should be able to manage and build better client relationships for profitability. So my session is going to speak for the food entrepreneurs and also inspire the designers as well. And the second thing is that I'm going to help the food entrepreneurs identify who a great designer is. And so sometimes right from the things that we'll be talking about, it will give you a fair idea who a great designer is. So yeah, everybody is selling something. I mean, there are a lot of designers on the call, both self-taught and who also went to school. And like my meme says, one does not simply become a graphic designer because you own Photoshop. So yeah, someone told you can be a good designer. You downloaded Photoshop, you have tried your hands on it, you've watched all the tutorials that you think will make you a good designer. We need to take a next step. I mean, what are you selling as a graphic designer? And my presentation is going to drill down on some of these things. Now, as a graphic designer, I think that the key thing or one key goal you need to, or a number of goals that you need to have at the back of your mind is to first make sure that your client is not choosing someone else. I mean, of course, you want the business. You are in the space to make money. So you have to make sure that the client is choosing you and nobody else. Or two, the client is not choosing to do it themselves, right? Now, these days, in the advent of tools like Canva and the internet, a lot of people decide that, okay, they'll just go online, read, watch tutorials, and do it themselves, right? So our first goal is to make sure that they are not choosing someone else. The second goal is to make sure that they are not doing themselves. And then the third one is to make sure that they are not deciding not to do it at all. I mean, people can frustrate clients so much that they decided, okay, I'm not going to, in fact, embark on this project, and you have become a dream killer. And so these are the three things that we have to make sure isn't happening. Okay. Now, for me, I think that every creative needs to have some value proposition for themselves, right? How will you benefit when you do business with me? As simple as that, right? How are you going to benefit if you decide to pick me as your graphic designer? Okay. And in this slide, I'll share a number of things that clients pay attention to. The first key thing that most clients pay attention to is pricing. I think every designer on the call, when you receive a call, majority of the time, the first question they are asking you is, how much are you going to charge me for this, right? It's a very typical occurrence, right? And so these are the things that they are paying attention to, your pricing. They are paying attention to the kind of service that you offer. Are you a specialist in packaging design? What is your core skill set? Now, the third thing, right, that a lot of people don't really notice is that the client pays attention to you, the designer, okay? They look at two things, your portfolio and your persona. You can have incredible portfolio, but if they don't like you, or if they feel they can't trust you, then they won't do business with you. And so that's why it's important to be able to know these three things that clients usually do consider. You have to know that it is easier to sell to someone within your target audience. I mean, if you are, we have food entrepreneurs on this call. If I'm looking for someone to design a package and I show up and say I'm a package designer, it is so easy for me to get the contract, right? But the exciting or the rather interesting part of this, right, is that you're not the only one getting the attention. Right on this call, we have at least over 20 designers who are probably into packaging design. So what makes you special enough for the client to say, I want you to be the one to design my package for me? Okay, how do I get the attention? It's a very, very important question that anytime you wake up, you need to ask yourself. Okay, now it's a matter of identifying what the client wants, what they need, or what they fear. Okay, these are the three key things that you need to be able. What do they want? What are they looking for? They are looking for a packaging designer to do what kind of package? Do they have specific needs? Do they have a number of skills? Do they fear? And here I'd like to make a typical example. Well, even though a number of designers thought I was crazy when I did this, now for a lot of people who go to client for identity or general designs, they tell the client that the client tells them that, so what if I don't like the design that you did for me? What happens next? Now, I identified that that was a key fear amongst a lot of clients, right? And so for me, I came up with a plan that, okay, so anytime you reach out to me for a design and you don't like any of the designs I do for you, I'm going to do another set for you. If you don't like any of them, you get 100% refund of your money. And so you don't lose anything, right? Well, apart from your time. And I realized that this finding a way to solve this fear actually brought a lot of clients to trust what I was doing, because they felt that, okay, well, after all, if they don't like it, if I don't like it, I can just walk away. I can get my money back. So how do I get their attention? You need to identify the things they want, what they need, the things they fear, and then you top it up with something special. So you need to find that one thing that makes it special for you as a designer. So it means that you don't have to assume, you need to ask them questions, right? Communicate with the clients. What are they looking for? What do they see as a real need for them? What are their fears, right? Try and understand these three things. And once you've been able to look at these three things, you find a solution to them, then you add that special thing that you want to give to them. Okay, now in pursuing this, there are a couple of things you need to do. You need to be able to know yourself as a designer. If you want to be able to give them something special, you need to know yourself, right? What are your strengths? Is your strength in typography? Jake mentioned a little bit of that. There are people who are extremely good at playing with colors. Is that your strength? And I put 2 times here because I think that it is extremely important that you really know the kind of person that you are. Secondly, of course, you need to know your competitors. Now, if you're a packaging designer, you need to know someone like Jake. Look at the things Jake is doing right, the things that Jake is doing wrong, so that you know what can be special to just you, okay, as a graphic designer. You need to know your business. In the graphic design space, you need to understand. And Daniel did a very great job of breaking down what you need to do to go to press. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, if you don't understand all of that part of your business, then you're going to create problems for your clients and then they'll never come back. You get it? And so that's why it's important you know your business. Now, the next thing is you need to know their business. You need to know the business of the clients that you're working on. You need to know the industry that they are in. And that's why as part of your research for any packaging projects, you need to be able to identify what other players are on the market, right? So that you can know what to create that will make theirs special. Okay, so these are the 4 elements that will help you or lead you on the journey to giving them something special. And so, yes, for every creative, I feel you should have a creative mantra. For me personally, I say I make people fall in love with your brand just by looking at it. And so for me, my ultimate goal always is to make sure that immediately you see the design, you're falling in love with the brand. Right now at 93, we say that we want to transform local businesses to global brands by 2030. And it's a promise that we make to a lot of the businesses that sign up with us. And for us, even right from our website, a few clients have reached out, especially because of this particular statement that we have here. So I'll dig into what you should do as a designer in terms of the soft skills. And the first thing I would like to share is you need to be able to show genuine concern, right? Don't be scripted. I think that at every point, when we were all growing up and we used to watch wrestling and we used to enjoy it so much, but for most of us, when we found out that it was scripted, a lot of us, we became very sad, right? And it's the same thing with dealing with clients, okay, or dealing with people who are potential clients. If they feel you are too scripted, then you become a bit unnatural and they feel you could be playing them, right? And so that's why I make reference to wrestling, because in the beginning, when we were all growing up, we all thought it was real till we found out that it was scripted, right? So yeah, you need to show genuine concern about the project. When they detect that, they feel that they can trust you with the project and you'll be able to give them amazing results, right? Now you need to chat with them, chat a bit more, right? Know your limits, all right, but have conversation with them. They're a human being, okay? And that's the human element of what we do. These days, there are softwares that can do identity package and all of those things online, okay? But the human touch is very important. You have a conversation with them. And it is very important because it helps you really identify what makes them tick. Do you get it? It makes you know the things that they find more interesting and the kind of, I mean, like I said earlier, even their wants, their needs, and the fears. It really, really helps you understand that. Never forget their name and never delete their contact. So you would realize that most of the points that I am sharing here are they feel very basic, but they make a huge difference in building client relationships that will lead you to making profit. Okay. It is always important that you keep the contact of any person who reaches out and probably never comes back. And this has worked for me a number of times, where they go and then they come back and immediately they call and they are about to introduce the same. I mentioned the name, oh, hi. And I mentioned the name, how are you? And it feels so good for them because they feel that, oh, you didn't forget about them, right? And even though it feels like a very small act, it makes a lot of difference for you as a designer in building the kind of relationship you want to build with your clients. Now use the right technical words. Okay, you're a designer, like Daniel was talking about the bleed and the die line and all of that. It's important that you use the right technical words, okay? It is important because it establishes your authority as a designer. It makes them know that you know what you're talking about. But the important thing you need to do is make sure that you break it down afterwards. Once you have used the words, break it down so that they understand what you're talking about, okay? And it becomes a very good learning journey for them. And so next time, if they are hearing bleed or die line or whatever somewhere, they don't feel lost. And most clients like to work with people they get additional value from. So you are not just coming to them you are not just going to them for design, but you are teaching them something. And in the end, they feel like they have learned something from you. So it is very important to take this point. Now present yourself as a consultant or advisor, okay? Now every project that you're put on, don't put your personal preferences to the fore, right? Listen to the client, look at their target audience, like Jake talked about color, typography, all of that. Don't say your favorite color is the thing, so that is what you want to use for the project, okay? Present rationale and facts to establish that you are the consultant on the project, you are the one advising them on what is the best direction to take, okay? But listen to them so that you can find some good synergy between what they want to do and what you think is the best in the market, so that you don't become overly emotional when they reject the ideas that you have. And for a lot of designers, it becomes a big issue that the client is not listening to them and all of that. But when you present yourself as a consultant or an advisor, you are able to control that feeling that you have to take over the project, and you allow the client to share theirs, and you share real rationale, and then you move on from there. Okay. Now be happy. It's infectious, right? Anytime you meet a client, I mean, the mood that you are in plays a very huge role. You are chatting with them, you are laughing, and you show genuine happiness towards the project that you're working. Automatically, they can tell this guy loves his job, and that builds really good trust between you and the client. So it feels like a very, very small point, but it's a very important point to note. You need to be happy at all times regarding the project. And a typical example for those in Ghana is that guy Aspana who sells the roasted plantain. I mean, all the time he's in a suit and tie, just roasting his plantain, singing and all of that. And you find a lot of people who pass by going there to buy, I mean, just because of the kind of energy he's giving off, right? And so this is a very, very valid point that you should consider. Now we have looked at the things that you should do in terms of the soft skills. We are going to look at the things that you should do in the business skills. Now, this doesn't mean that what I have shared before doesn't really fall within the business skills, right? You are building a business relationship, and so all of these things are very important. And the better the relationship, the more money you can make, okay? Because then people will keep referring you to other people because of the kind of relationship that you are building with them, okay? Now here, it is always important to start with a brief, right? Jake talked about a brief and the things that go into it. Now, what the brief does is that it prevents any uncomfortable conversations, okay? It makes sure that you are managing the client's expectations, you are identifying what the key deliverables are, what your timelines look like, and these things become a very good guide for how the project will go. Now, if you're able to understand the kind of target audience they have, then you have a good sense of the kind of colors you're using, you have a good sense of the typography, you have a good sense of the layout, you know the type of product, and so you have a good sense of even the type of packaging, okay? And so that's why it's important that starting with a really good brief will help. And The next one will be price fairly and strategically. Okay. And I think that for a lot of creatives, this becomes a very big issue when it comes to pricing, right? For me, I'm not going to put a number to start at this amount or that amount, but I'm going to share with you a number of things that you can consider in your pricing. Okay. Now, if you're designing a product and it has a number of SKUs, okay, you have maybe it's going to be in tiger nut, it's going to be, you're going to have some other form of nuts. You have to make sure that you are looking at all the SKUs that you have to design and making sure that your pricing is covering that, so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot by saying that, okay, your packaging costs this amount of money, and so you didn't cater for all of these things. Okay, it's very important. The type of packaging, okay, sometimes there are ones that you're probably designing just the front, you are not designing the back. I mean, with most of EPAC's pouches, you're designing the front and back. If you were doing a box, you'd be doing the sides. Sometimes all of these help you gauge the energy, the time that you're going to put in the work. And so it's a very good thing to consider when you're pricing. The type of client is important, especially in Ghana, where, and EPAC is doing a great job at trying to help young food entrepreneurs, right? The type of client is important. Someone is starting a plantain chips business, maybe, and it's a very small business, okay? You usually can't charge like you would charge for a big corporation, right? That has a lot of levels of authority and all of that. Sometimes you need to look at the type of client, the product they are selling, how much they're even looking at selling to the market, okay? And then you are able to put together some good price points. Now, in charging, your personal value as a designer is also important, right? Your years of experience really comes to play, because sometimes, and there's a very famous quote that goes about that: if you are paying me as a designer to do something for you in 15 minutes, you are not paying for that 15 minutes, right? You are paying for the 15 years of experience that I put in to be able to do it in the 15 minutes. Okay, so that really plays a role in pricing fairly and strategically, right? And then the last thing I'll say here is you need to have a base rate. Okay, base rates become very good guides for every designer at all. For you, you can peg your base rate as say 100 cedis, 200 cedis, and say that for me, I never go below this amount of money in anything I charge. What that does for you is that as you grow as a designer, it helps you to know the kind of clientele that you are getting, and then you're able to identify that most of the clients who come are paying within this price range, and so it becomes a very good base rate for you. So these are a few tips when it comes to pricing that you can consider. The next thing you need to do is to have an agreement or a contract in place. Like my immune says, you haven't read your contract. You like to live life too dangerously. If you don't have a contract, how are you going to manage the project? Okay, the contract helps you define the project terms and conditions. And at the end of the event, we're going to put together a series of resources like the contract templates and all of that that you can tweak to fit your kind of project or your kind of business, right? But it protects you and it protects the client. In your contract, you are specifying how long you're going to take for the project, the number of rivets, right, that are going to be happening, so that you don't keep going back and forth. When you're able to define, let's say, things like your number of rivets, you're going to do maybe 3 rivets. After the 3, they are going to pay this amount of money for every additional rivet. Then you have made the client know, and you have both agreed on that, and so they know how they are going to control all of that. Okay, it also really reduces frustrations. Okay, very, very important, because everything has been laid in clear terms, right? So if you're a food entrepreneur, you have to make sure that these things are things that you're demanding from the designer that you're working with, right? Execute flawlessly. Because it gives everybody peace of mind, right? You need to execute flawlessly, in the sense that from A to Z, you need to make sure that you're communicating, you are taking your time to meet the deliverables based on the timelines that you're given. If there is a shift in timeline, you are accommodating for it, or you are really communicating it to the person that you're working with. Now, this is a big thing. Take feedback in good faith, okay? For a lot of designers, because they feel that they have sat down, they have done mood boards, they've gone through a certain process to be able to deliver their work. Sometimes they develop a certain shield or that makes them feel like the work that they are presenting is really great, right? But sometimes, I mean, the client was the one who slept and had a dream of what they want to build. As much as you're the consultant, you have to make sure that you're taking whatever feedback they are bringing in good faith, right? And you are making sure you are addressing them even as they bring them, okay? And it creates really good value for clients. Beyond that, you have to actively seek feedback, right? Sometimes maybe getting to the end of the project, ask them, what part of your process they really like, what did they like, what didn't they like. All of those little things play a huge role in helping them have certain kind of trust in you, because when you go to them and then you seek feedback, it gives them a really good feeling, right? They feel that this guy thinks about the project that he did for us, and it makes it easier for them to bring you another project, and that makes you more money. Okay, wrap up projects memorably, right? And I say this because I feel that for every project that you're doing, at the end of the project, you need to leave them with something that will make them keep coming back. Okay, and so for me, there are a few projects that like identity project that after I ship the final files to you, you get a guide that shows that, okay, use this at this point, use that at this point, use this at that point. Okay, sometimes you even share your own ideas, what you're thinking they can do even beyond the design, and these things really help. Sometimes in web projects, after the project, we give them, let's say, 2-month free support. We are helping them get things set up. We are helping train people in their team to be able to handle certain things so that it makes the work easy. And these things really do help the clients, right? And they will never forget about you, to be honest. Now I'll be ending my session with this last part that says who you should be. I mean, we have talked about a lot of things based on the soft and then the business skills, and really identify the things that will make you a great designer. But what kind of person should you be? You need to be a brave person, okay? And coming from a design background myself, I know that a lot of designers like to stay in their rooms, hidden in their studios and all of that, just working. If you want to be brave, you need to step out, right? You need to go out there, networking, events, all of these things play a really, really good role in making sure that you are putting yourself out there, okay? And it makes conversations very easy, okay? It really puts you out there that you're able to handle any kind of conversation that comes your way. You need to be able to read people. And I add these things because now you're working with people, right? You are dealing with communication, you're dealing with things that are going to reach a lot of people. So you need to understand how people operate. And to do that, you need to be able to make sure that you are paying attention, listen. That's the easiest way to really get to know how people behave, okay? And also, what it does that, it helps you understand how people tick, what people do. Now, the concept of color psychology, typography psychology were based on the fact that they were able to understand how the human mind works, right? And so you need to be able to read the kind of client that you're working with, and these components will really help you. So use words, okay? Practice how to be natural. You need to express yourself so that you don't have any hidden things within you. Now, a lot of designers fall victim to this, where they are dodging the client's messages and calls and all of that because they have an issue, right? But they are not really addressing that issue, okay? So you need to be able to use your words, all right? Express yourself, tell them what is going on, explain the details of whatever you're going through, whatever you think they should do, right? Words are very powerful if you don't know. So they're using the right words, even in how you're communicating to them. Sometimes even ending some of your ideas with statements like, what do you think, alone is good, right? It's a very simple sentence, but it opens up the conversation for them to also express themselves. So you need to really know the kind of words to use at whatever point in time. Now, availability and reliability, okay? Now, I have always believed that availability and reliability will do more for you than hard work will ever will, right? The people who get some of the best projects in this world are not the craziest of designers or the best of designers, right? But as the designer who probably picked that phone call, or who was available online, or who was reliable, right? If I'm looking for you, am I finding you very easily across whatever platforms that I'm searching, okay? And these are really good tools for making sure that you're getting some of the best projects, and you're also making profit. If you're not available and you're not getting the project, how do you make money? Right. And so this is a very, very valid point that in my journey, as I learned, I realized that it made a huge difference for me. Now, be meticulous. Okay. You need to pay attention to detail. I mean, this one, I don't even have to add it because it should be a fundamental trait of every creative. Okay. Before you you print 5,000 pieces of your packaging and there's a small grammatical error in it. Can you imagine the kind of problem that would create for the entrepreneur that you're working with? So pay attention to the smallest of detail, right? In the projects that you're working on. It gives the client peace of mind, okay? And peace of mind leads to good relationship, and that leads to more money for you as a creative. Now, my final point would be you should be able to hold a conversation. So you must be well read. And for designers, because you work across so many projects, you do a lot of projects in and out, you need to be reading more. I mean, these days there are so many resources available online. I keep telling people that in this day and age, if you want to know how to make a bomb out of banana, you find a video that will probably show you that, right? So yeah, you need to be well read. You need to be able to understand everything within any space at all and be able to have meaningful conversations with people about it. Now, the more people enjoy the conversations that they have with you, the easier it is for them to trust you, the easier it is for them to do business with you, okay? And so these points are the key points that I think will make you stand out, will make you a great designer, will make you a different designer from everybody. In my last slide, because I see a couple of people dropping on and off, I just put together this summary slide to kind of really break down what I have shared with you in the simplest of terms. Thank you so much for waiting until this session, and thank you for listening to my presentation. And I can take questions now.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for that very thorough presentation, not only for entrepreneurs, but for designers as well. So we're well equipped with what we need to know as far as getting a winning packaging design. There's been a lot of questions in the chat box, and our guests are all, speakers are answering to all of the questions. So if you have not had an answer yet, don't worry. We will get to you in due time. But we did a little quiz earlier on, a questionnaire that we answered. And the reason we are doing that is because we're going to have a series of events throughout the year. We really want to ensure that the content we bring your way is relevant to entrepreneurs and also relevant to designers. So we need to get an idea of who has joined us and where they're coming from. So we're going to post that again on here. It's just about 5 to 7 questions. Answer it if you are a designer or an entrepreneur, so that in our future events, we'll know how best to serve you, because EPAC is really just here to create synergies between the two. So Daniel, let me check again if we have any specific questions to you. There's one here from New Love. New Love says there should be a price range for the food producer to choose from, and at least our designer should have time to explain to us when we contact them for business. So this sounds like a customer service issue that designers need to pay attention to. Maxwell Seram also says, what would you do if your client does not cooperate with how do you deal with difficult clients, pretty much? So if you want to answer both of them for us, Daniel?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll take the question on the price range. I mean, it's a huge, so it is very difficult, right? Setting a price range. Okay, we and within the design community, we always say that even if you're looking for a designer who designed for you at 50 Ghana cedis, you'd actually find one. And if you're looking for someone who would do for 5,000 cedis, you'd also find one, right? A lot of times, yeah, you would have to find a designer within the budget that you have. Okay, a lot of designers take a couple of the things that I shared into consideration to really put together the pricing that they have, right? For someone, anytime he sets his pricing at 500 cedis, he's getting maybe 20 projects at a go. So he wants to filter through it. And so he increases his price to, let's say, 1,000 to cut through the number. And so there can't really be actually a fixed price, right? Across design. But I mean, once you engage with a designer, you'll be able to have a good sense of the price range that they are willing to do the project. And then you can reach out to them for that. Yeah. And the second question, I'm sorry. Oh yes. So how to deal with? I mean, across every industry, there's sometimes difficulty in dealing with certain people who don't understand. But I think the fundamental thing, right, is communication. Okay. Once, and that's why having a brief in the beginning is important. When you are align, okay. Sometimes one of the things that I do with some of the clients I work with is that to go and bring the designs that you have seen that you like. Okay. And once you do that, I'm able to really understand the range that you fall in. I'll give the advice the best way I can give. Like I'm saying, present yourself as a consultant. Okay. But if you realize that you can't manage that particular client, there is absolutely nothing wrong, right, with both parties walking away from the partnership that you're about to get into. Okay. And it makes everybody have their peace of mind. Like I said, peace of mind is very important for both the designer and for the client as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Daniel, again for clarifying that for us. We're now going to wrap it up. It's a very long afternoon, a very rewarding one at such. I want to thank everyone for staying with us from the very beginning till now. EPAC is really here to let designers also know that there's a whole list of entrepreneurs that are looking for the services that you provide. So perhaps maybe up until now, you were not getting enough interest from food entrepreneurs. Now, a lot of them are becoming more aware. You know, we have something like the African Continental Free Trade Area. People are trying to tap into that. The government recently launched the Ghana Cares Obantapa program, and part of that is to get more young people interested in agriculture. There's a lot of support for people who want to get into the agro-processing space. And now more than ever, highly educated people are going into agriculture. And with that, they will demand some of your services. Because I, as an SME, I have no idea about packaging. But if I come to EPAC, they have access to someone like Jacob, someone like the two Daniels, who are going to walk me through exactly what I need to do. So if you're a food designer, I want to get an idea so that when opportunities come, we can throw them your way. Or if we have other events that we want to bring to you, we have a clear idea who you are. So the poll is right there. Please click on it for us. If you're an entrepreneur as well, we want to get an idea if you're a food producer, so that if we get more services that will help you reach your clients, we will bring that your way, because we want to get to a point where 2-3 years from now, we have big multinationals coming out of Ghana. I'm talking about companies that are dominating store shelves in Ghana, in Nigeria, in South Africa, taking over the diaspora market as well. The demand is there. We just have to do the right thing so that we can feed them the supply that other people are currently providing them. We're now going to hear from the GM of EPAC Ghana, Mr. Victor Sosa. But before he joins us, I want all of us to just spend 1 minute filling out this form. And because Barbara is smiling, maybe I'll give 1 or 2 people to also ask their questions via the video so that we can really interact. So if you have any questions or feedback on the conference so far, I think we can spend 2-3 minutes doing that before we hear from the big man behind EPAC Ghana. Okay, Victor, I think we're all ready for you. So we hear the closing remarks from Victor now.
Jifra, thank you. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank everybody who participated in this presentation, as well as the participants. It's amazing what we have managed to do in the last 2 hours. And I hope everybody has got something to take away today and to enhance the quality of their packaging, to enhance their brands, and to go out into the market with a much more positive outlook. Here at EPAC, we're open for business. Like we said earlier on, we're here to support you, to grow with you, And our main value proposition is that we will provide you with your packaging within 10 to 15 days after it has been approved by pre-press. We also will give you order on demand, so you don't have to go and stack up tens of thousands of packaging in your warehouse and waste your working capital on packaging. You come, we'll make it for you as and when you need it. So it's order on demand. You don't need plate fees. Unlike the conventional mode of printing packaging, you have to buy your molds or you have to buy your plates for $100 a pop. You don't need that. Digital press, we do everything for you from start to finish, as long as we have your artwork in 300 DPI, as we said before. So please do contact us. My name is Victor Sosa. We're on the internet, EPAC Ghana, and we've got the salespeople out here waiting to speak to you and to help you solve your packaging problems. We are here to help you grow, and we're here to help you solve your packaging problems. Thank you very much for this afternoon, Sunday afternoon. We're so delighted that you spent your time with us. And with that, we can conclude the day. Chifa.
Thank you very much, Victor. And again, their social media. Victor, what's the social media? So everybody will go to your social media.
EPAC Flexibles. Okay, we're on Instagram, we're on internet, and we're on Facebook. Okay.
So lastly, we're going to take a picture of every single person. Does that make sense? It's for EPAC Social. Let's all come to the video so we see our awesome people who are here with us today. Everybody, show your faces, because we're here for you. If not for you, this event wouldn't have happened. You signed up, you tuned in, you stayed, you interacted with us from 2 p.m. now. It's difficult getting Ghanaians to do anything on a Sunday, because Sundays are for church and food and a mutual. But you valued this enough to make time for it, and we appreciate you. So please take your video off so that we can see all of your beautiful faces. Hopefully when COVID is over, we'll do an in-person one where we get to see you all in person, get to engage with you and really learn from you on how best to serve you if you're an entrepreneur and how best to engage you if you're a designer. So let's just keep waving. I see Nana Aban, I see Abigail Deku, so many people who have stayed with us. Let's see, William.
People keep dropping.
Awesome. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy your day. On behalf of Indygo and EPAC Ghana, it's been my absolute pleasure hosting you today. My name is Jifa Ekia Amatam. I'm usually on Breakfast Daily on City TV, channel 363 on DSTV. I love all things food and all things agro-processing, and I can't wait for the day that our local brands will take their rightful place, not only in supermarkets here, but supermarkets across the globe, because the movement right now is that people want natural products, people want products that don't have additives. We have all those things here. The only thing that's missing is quality packaging. And thanks to EPAC, we don't have to have $1 million or a huge budget to be able to take our rightful place in the world. So thank you, EPAC. Thank you, Indygo. And thank you guys for staying. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Goodbye.
Hello. Hello. Have you ended the meeting or the conference?